Hey, okay, so this is episode two of, two at the moment. How long this is going to go on for, I'm not sure yet, but let's see how things run. So, this particular one I want to discuss about something that I get asked about, or lots of us in the industry get asked about a lot, which is um, software. So, which particular piece of software should I learn? Okay. Now, it, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. It doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't matter, especially in this day and age now, when pretty much every single piece of software is pretty much the same as the next one. So if you've got 3D software, like for example 3ds Max, you've got Maya, you've got Houdini, you've got Cinema 4D, you've got Blender, you've still got Lightwave. I think it's still going. Just as an example, um, pretty much every single one's got about the same feature set as the next. The primary differences really are how things are um, laid out. So if you can kind of akin to it like learning a piece of software is akin to like learning how to drive. So if you know where the gears are, you know how to operate the clutch, you know how to operate the brake, you know how to operate the accelerator, you know how to operate the steering wheel, you know where the window wipers are, you know where the lights are and all that kind of stuff. When you learn to drive, you can pretty much, if you then jump into another car, within about a few minutes time, you can pretty much figure out where things are. But then just having that muscle memory of actually being able to operate that vehicle without having to overthink anything is going to take you a little bit of time, like a couple of days or something like that. So you know exactly, okay, the lights are here, the horn is here, not at the side, and so on and so on and so on. So learning any other piece of 3D software, as an example, it's pretty much the same sort of thing. So when you actually start out, you're learning through repetition. You're just like learning to draw, learning to paint. It's learning through practice and repetition, trial and error, success and failure. And same deal when it comes to learning a piece of 3D software. So when you try and learn something else, if you try and learn another piece of 3D software, then the feature sets are going to be pretty much there. It will be frustrating because, oh, why isn't it there? Why isn't it? It should be here. It should be there. Why do I have to do this? And da, 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 da. That will be there. But once you actually get into utilizing it and being able to learn and to control it and to have that, second nature, like it's an extension of oneself, like you have in your original piece of software that you've learned, just like learning to drive, it feels like an extension of you. You don't need to overthink it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter what piece of, especially when it comes to 3D software, what you use, purely because they're all pretty much the same nowadays anyway. Now, why does a studio choose one piece of software, excuse me, over another piece of software? And that's basically down to one of several factors. So one is basically cost. Like, this piece of software costs this much. Maybe they've struck a deal with a supplier and the supplier's gone, yeah, okay, you buy 50 seats of this and we'll cut you a deal. Whereas another supplier will go, okay, we're going to take 50 seats and we'll cut you less of a deal. So the accountants have waded in and they've gone, okay, you take this one over this one because it's cheaper. That's one option. Second reason is going to be because the people who founded the company in the first place, they are familiar with this particular one because that's their tool of choice, and they've gone down that particular route, and so they know what they're talking about when they come into working with other artists, when they come into work with their staff, and they can educate them and help them along and that kind of thing. That's the same kind of thing that happened with us, to be frank. Myself and Adel, we knew 3ds Max, that was our weapon of choice, and that's why we adopted that very early on within the company. So the other aspect is basically whether or not you yourself, as a supplier, as a vendor, as a studio, are supplying work or working with other studios. So you're trying to adopt their same practices, their same workflows, so you slot in seamlessly, because they will then be a regular provider, a regular supplier to your business. Okay, so when it comes to you as an artist, or you as an applicant to any of these companies, if you definitely want to work for them, yeah, having the knowledge within the of that particular piece of software really does help. Yes, so do the research, talk to people who work there, find out what their pipelines are, find out what their software they use is going to be. But at the end of the day, if you are good, if your showreel is awesome, it really doesn't matter what you're using, because if you have value, if a studio will hire you based on your portfolio, they see a value in hiring you. You're going to fulfill a requirement. You're going to push the quality of that studio's output better than what it currently is, higher than what it currently is. So therefore, they see a value, and that value is not only through quality, but it's a financial number as well. So they will actually sit and wait for you to learn the stuff that they use, if that's necessary, if you don't already know it. Okay? In some cases, they may even allow you to actually change their pipeline slightly to cater for you. That's happened also. We've done that. So we've had some guys come in. So our entire pipeline was Max. We had a bunch of animators come in and they only knew Maya. And, you know, we had a short time frame on specific jobs. So we had to adopt Maya into our pipeline for animation work. And then we hired modelers who, again, were experienced primarily in Maya. So we were actually changing our platform so that the animation and the modeling was done in Maya. And the lighting and the rendering was done in 3ds Max. So things adapt. If there is a benefit in that adaptation, then that will happen without any shadow of a doubt. But you got to prove the fact that you're actually worth that adaptation if that tends to happen. Okay, so check to see whether or not a particular studio uses a certain type of tool, and if you want to start out learning that, learn that. That's fine. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you're good, you're good. That's all that bottles down to. So what sorts of software are there out there? Now, every single department within a VFX pipeline, and the pipeline thing I will go through in another video, maybe the next one I do, or a few ahead or whatever, I'm not sure yet. But in every single process in the pipeline, you'll get several choices. And some have pros, some have cons, some have benefits, some have drawbacks. But again, it's horses for courses, and every single one has its strengths, has its weaknesses. Case in point, one of Max's largest strengths was modeling. Its modeling toolkit was very, very good compared to, at the time, Maya's. Maya's was not so great compared to Max's. Its hard surface modeling tools were very, very good, but its NURBS tools were atrocious, absolutely atrocious. They'd not changed since like 2001 kind of thing. So they had, benefits and drawbacks, while Max's drawbacks were its animation tools, its character animation tools specifically. And Maya's excelled in that. So that's the reason why in a lot of animation studios, Maya was adopted relatively quickly. And the marketing team over at Alias did a sterling job. They got Maya into a lot of studios, and that became the de facto standard. I'm saying de facto standard because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best one, but it means that it's the one that got adopted. It's the one that got utilized and got in there. So that's the one that's kind of set in stone. Same deal with regards to effects studios, like, for example, bringing in Houdini. Now, Houdini is very expensive, but it's very good. And you can pretty much build whatever you want. You don't need to rely on third-party plugins as such. You can basically build your own stuff within the node-based systems and scripting systems within Houdini itself. So the learning curve is quite steep compared to a lot of the other commercial software that's out there. So effects, if you're a Houdini guy, that's the way to go for it. If you want to blow stuff up and smash stuff into stuff and all that kind of stuff, yeah, definitely. But then there are other alternatives for other commercial software like 3ds Max, for example. Tyflow is currently a free plugin that's been developed by Tyson Abell, and he's put this thing out for free right now, and it's absolutely astounding. It's something that we've all within the Max community wanted for about a decade now, to be frank. But then you've also got that commercial aspect. You've still got to buy the, the commercial license. Well, now it's a subscription model. That is a whole different ball game, which I'll go into in maybe another video, because there's views and opinions about that. Versus other non-commercial software, like for example Blender, which is a open source piece of kit. It's pretty much like 3ds Max. It's got a bit of everything in there. It's got some way more advanced features than Max has got. It's got some less advanced features than what Max has got. So like I said, every single one has got pros and cons. We as a studio, just as a side note, we've pretty much adopted Blender through around about 80% of our pipeline now. So there's certain areas which are not still fully adopted, like for example, tracking, match move, for example. So we're doing the alignment in there, but the actual main processing is being done with other pieces of software, like for example, off the top of my head, 3D Equalizer or PF Track. So they're the two kind of options that one tends to have within that particular part of the pipeline. Within, like I say, asset building, texturing, shading, lighting, rendering, you have Maya, you have Max, you have Houdini, you have Blender, you have Cinema 4D, you have Lightwave. There's many different options to choose from. So check out which ones you feel comfortable with. Which ones are you happy driving? Are you comfortable with a manual or an automatic? Do you prefer driving on the left or driving on the right, kind of thing? Sentiments like that. So whatever suits you, whatever allows you to produce the best art. That's one of the most important things. What's allowing you to produce the best art? For compositing, it's pretty much Nuke or Fusion, but there is a open source alternative which is called Natron. So if you want to get into doing Nuke at the moment and you can't afford the price tag, look at Natron, because it is a open source alternative which is very similar to Nuke. Shortcuts, plugins, support, etc. If I remember correctly, it was actually developed by two former Foundry guys. I might be wrong in that. I'm not 100% sure. So anybody feel free to correct me on that. Not a problem. So at the end of the day, your choice is your choice. Studios will have preferences. That's there. That's okay. But it shouldn't hamper your requirement. On our website, we've got requirements on there, yes. But that's not to say that if you're awesome, you ain't going to get a job. Simple as that. Just like any other studio, if they see what you're worth, if you see you're good, if you're an amazing Maya guy and the entire studio is a Max pipeline or a Houdini pipeline, they will possibly adopt you within that pipeline as you currently are, or they will ask you to, okay, here, sit 1 month, learn the kit, we'll pay for it, no problem, just sit and get up to speed on this thing, and then we'll throw you into shots. That will happen. That has been definitely known to happen also. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Pretty much like this video. The most important thing is that you're comfortable with the software that you're using. You're having fun with it, because it's art. Seriously, you've got to really enjoy yourself doing this thing. With the hours that a lot of studios, what artists and studios do, it can be obviously very tough. So you want to have and be comfortable with a piece of software that feels like an extension of yourself. It shouldn't be hard work to use. And everyone's got their own choices. Everyone's got their own preferences. There was what we call the software wars back in the 2000s between your Maxes and your Mayas and all that kind of stuff. That was there, and it's still there to a degree, kind of thing now. But again, tool of choice, preference, what's going to make you a better artist. You will only know that. You will only know what you feel most comfortable with, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you if you love using 3ds Max, use 3ds Max. If you love using Maya, use Maya. If you love using C4D, use C4D. If you love using Blender, use Blender. It's totally fine. Things will slot around other, studios will slot around you. You can slot around studios. You can spend, if a studio says to you, okay, yeah, we'll take you, you're awesome, but you're not within our pipeline. You don't use the software that we use. And you can just go, right, fine, give me a month. And then that's it. You just prove to them that you can do it. And that shows that you're highly adaptable and therefore highly desirable. Okay? I think that's about it. I think that covers pretty much everything. This is, to be frank, this is like the 4th time I've recorded this. I recorded some in the afternoon, messed up. I went on full on to this. Sorry, I'll just clunk the microphone there. I went on full on working on this desk, listing everything down and whatnot. And I was like, 30 minutes I've been talking about, and I've realized that I'd actually been speaking maybe around about 15 minutes of, I'm not going to swear, but rubbish. Let's put it that way. It was padding. So I'm going to keep this short as this is. Hopefully this is clear. Any queries or questions? Let's not get into a software war, please, because they get messy. It really does get messy. I have opinions, totally. Possibly I'll voice them about pricing structures and this, that, and the other in the future. But anyway, have fun, be safe, wear a mask. See you next time. How do I turn this off? Right. Ta-da.